People who are looking to close quickly during Corona are failing. Those that are using it as a chance to build relationships with people they want to do business with are winning.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy from quickmail.io.
Hey, and this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com.
Hey, Jack, just before we start, I've been doing some thinking lately. You know, our podcast won't be legit until we have a sponsor, right?
Okay, but haven't we been turning down sponsors?
I know, but it's hard to recommend something you and I don't use often, and we're already promoting the crap out of our services.
Fair point, but what about the course we just released? Wouldn't you recommend that to our listeners?
Yeah, for sure I would. All right, so how would we start?
Well, for starters, I wouldn't mention that it took us over a year and 3 trips to Japan and Switzerland to record the thing.
All right, let's not do that. But at minimum, I would want to mention where they can find the course. Like, let's put it to, course.quickmail.io. Would that work for you?
It works, and then I could share what a few of those early students had to say about it. Like the one from Damien, who said it was by far the best course on cold outbound I've ever taken. Or what did Chris say? The week on sales research and targeting prospects blew my mind. Yeah, we definitely want that in there.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of too easy. You know, people always say nice things when they get results. And at some point, we're going to have to come up with some hard sell copywriting materials of our own. And you know, I'm not that great at that. So I don't know, what would you put on the page?
Okay, how about this? Imagine that instead of getting ignored by prospects day after day, you could just follow a course that shows you how to book meetings with dream clients and automate the entire outbound process so you can focus on closing deals and scaling your company. Plus, there's that money-back guarantee and the 8 modules and the bonus podcast interviews. But so far, so good?
Yeah, I like it, man. But you know, I like your style. So anyway, all right, it's getting a bit late. So can we podcast now and review that later?
Yeah, but at least promise me that course.quickmail.io is finally live and people can finally try out the course right now.
Yeah, sure. I already put it live, and just so you know, I added that special price we discussed about for our podcast listener, and then we can leave it here until, you know, we're happy with the landing page. Sounds fair enough?
Yeah, let's do it. Water cooler.
Yeah, water cooler today. I think we forgot to talk about the secret word before, Jack. So maybe I can put one. You give me one, I give you one.
Yeah, sure.
And then if you guys in the audience can figure out, or maybe we ask the audience to participate. I'm not sure here.
I think the audience should guess. So true fans know this of the podcast, but every episode, Jeremy and I give each other a secret word that we make one another say during the live episode. And the words are pretty ridiculous, from, I don't know, Heath Ledger and Panda and a couple other secret words. So I'm going to message Jeremy and make him say something out of the ordinary, try and catch it.
And sometime actually your participants, on interviewee are also participating.
Yeah. All right, your word's in.
Your words is in as well.
Very good. Let's see if you're...
Oh, your one's is easy today. All right, enough chit-chat. I think by then we got pretty much everyone joining it. I think there's still more people to join in, but hey, that's their loss if they're not coming on time.
Okay.
All right, so you want to kick things off?
Yeah, sure.
Jack?
So look, we're in the midst of COVID, and if you're doing outbound, you've been impacted by it. Certainly nobody is out there without an awareness of a change. Most of us are finding that it's putting a damper on some opens and replies. We'll look at some data shortly. But what Jeremy and I have been talking about quite a lot lately is there are teams right now that are being proactive even in the dire economic times. And they're actually finding some meaningful wins even today, right now, no matter what industry they're going after, even if your clients are currently shut for business. And that's really what we want to have a conversation about and bring some data in to back it up.
Yeah, when did we start this conversation? I think 2 weeks ago, was the probably the biggest crisis time where everyone suddenly realized, holy hell, everything's going to shut down now. And so, everyone's just freaking out. I got lots of support questions about, hey, even in my personal inbox, people who know me, they just reach out directly to me and say, hey, we're not quite sure what to do here. Should we pause our campaign? Should we not pause? And I say, hey, I don't know. And so I wonder, why do I not know? And then I just jump into Quick Mail, started doing some analysis and so on. And I shared it actually on our Facebook group. And that had some echo, people were interested, and I decided to look a bit closer, do more drilling, and we got some data that we want to share. I think it's very interesting, and I think you guys should definitely enjoy that. The thing that I'd like you to go away with is just not, listening to two bunch of people who talk and just like with fluff, we want you to take away some of the real facts here, as well as some of the options that you have. So for your record, you can sort of like look at some defensive action, like, hey, we're going to cut costs, we're going to, let people go and do X, Y, Z. Or you got the offensive side, which is like, you know what, that creates a great opportunity. Let's take advantage on this and this part. And I'm way more on the opportunity side. First of all, because I'm lucky enough to not have been personally affected by the virus or anyone I know, which, obviously must be a very difficult time and terrible time. Sure enough, I'm locked down here in Switzerland, but, I'm lucky enough that I don't have any casualty to report. So that helps me to focus on like, okay, there is probably one thing in a lifetime that will happen here. Maybe not. Maybe we'll have a few more pandemics coming up before I die. Hopefully, that means I will live longer. But, there may be things that we can do right now that are time sensitive that we won't be able to do in a week or 2 weeks' time. And I think that's what I want you also to get away with is some of the things that people are doing right now that I know of because I looked at it and maybe say like, how can I apply that in my business? Maybe your business is getting crushed. Maybe your business is going well or maybe not impacted very much. So one is not impacted that much. It is to some extent as sort of derivative. So, some of the agency have some of their clients that are like, we're not quite sure. They're pausing their engagement for 1, 2, 3 weeks. And so therefore, that's how we get affected. But otherwise, it's still okay on our end, at least. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, so I'm coming from a bit more of a conservative angle here, just because a couple of the clients that we work very closely with have taken a big hit. And, having a phone call with, in my opinion, a great CEO and just a good person and have them tell me, hey, we just had to let 8 people go today. It's like, man, what a crushing moment. That sucks. And something that I want to impart with everybody joining us right now is there's a very real impact that you're feeling. And it's not like a webinar can transform that. You may seriously be in a tough spot right now. But what I didn't first realize, and Jeremy, you've helped sort of open the blinds to this, is no matter where you're at, there is something that you can do if you're willing to be proactive and if at the very least set yourself up for a quick growth after this settles down.
Yeah, in fact, I could actually give an example just right on this one. Yeah, sure. So some business have to let people go because obviously the whole business, stops. But the flip side of that is, for example, I'm hiring and actually carry on hiring. And I noticed like an influx of new talent on the pool as well. So there are some opportunities that are created by some of those unfortunate events for others or for the world.
Yeah, and just before we turn to the data, because I know everyone's really curious to see what kind of stats you've been able to drum up, Jeremy, there was something you mentioned early on about using this as a unique time, maybe once in a lifetime. Personally, I think we all hope it is once in a lifetime. But we find that there are certain events, calendar events throughout the year that just make outreach easier. I'll give you an example. I ran a kind of happy holidays campaign to people I wanted to do business with in 2020. And I basically just shot them in a really short email saying, in one campaign, it was directed to influencers I wanted to work with, bring on the podcast, that kind of thing. And I just used it as a great opportunity to say, hey, thanks for the content you've been putting out there. Wishing you guys like a great Christmas and Happy New Year, all that stuff. And it was just a unique opportunity and it worked to start a whole bunch of conversations. It would be a little bit trickier if I tried that in July. Like I would need to have a better reason to reach out, if not for the event. And I'm telling you, like for Corona, I'm using this same sort of event triggered campaign where like on LinkedIn, I'm sending messages out to people saying, hey, just want to connect with fellow founders during these, difficult times. And I think we're sort of all on a common ground here. And one of the influence factors that we love to come back to on the podcast is similarity, liking, showing people that you are just like them is a really nice little shortcut to bridging connections. And so one example that this is making possible that wasn't an option before.
It's a great thing that you're saying. And in fact, it doesn't even have to be for business. Like, for example, I told you that just before we started the show is yesterday evening, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't sleep. I just put up my LinkedIn and just message all the people that I like in my connection. So apologize in advance if you're in my connection and I didn't notice you, but I was scrolling fast. So, there's still, a few thousand contacts to go through. And just, reconnected. And and then I reconnected with some people. I heard some stories as well, which are interesting as well on how, they've been impacted by COVID. I'm wondering, Jack, maybe at this time it's quite cool, the guys make an effort to come on a webinar. Maybe we could also survey them. We prepared one survey to figure out like where you stand. Do you think that'd be a good way to start?
Yeah, and I'll just very quick backstory. We sort of like made this quadrant here where there's 4 scenarios that business owners, salespeople find themselves in. And this poll basically asks you, which quadrant are you in? How has COVID impacted? Basically bad to good.
Oh, yeah. So basically, we got pretty much like 46% that say that it ground it to a halt. Now, that's horrible, obviously. So I'm going to keep that in mind and not try to look too excited when it comes to opportunity, because I understand that you guys may come from a position of having your business being, halted. That's not good. Down slightly. So I'm part of that. Like I mentioned, we got 38%, and then no impact, 15%, and then we got 0 improved. Now, that's interesting, and I'll share with you some of the business that I know improved looking at QuickMail itself and also talking with the people who were the owner of those campaigns. Anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah, so if you're looking for ideas on what to do during COVID being impacted, we're certainly going to cover that. In fact, I would say most of our material ideas are for these kinds of situations. And like I put myself in that box as well. So I'm coming at this from, personal business background as well. So we're in this together.
Oh yeah, let's go down to stats here. So I went to QuickMail, look at the stats and put it up week by week. Now this is the result that you're going to see here. The dark line is presenting the open rate. Thanks, Greg, appreciate. And the light line is presenting the reply rate. We're going to look at the reply rate more in details. You got to see it in the next slide. But I want to talk about the open rate right now, because the open rate is giving you one side of the story. It doesn't give you everything, but I think both combined, I can draw some conclusion as to what's going on here, really. So there are a few tricks as well. Like before, you can see the massive dip here happens in Christmas. It's Christmas and New Year. So Christmas and New Year is having like a massive dip on the open rate, which kind of makes sense because most people are just, not looking their phone. Yeah, would you say so, Jack? Is there anything I'm missing here?
For the most part, yeah. I also think like Q4 ended and you're seeing this dip right there because a lot of objectives have been checked off. A lot of people are out of office. Yeah, it's a natural sort of thing every late December.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to ignore the first few points before December because basically we have a much shorter number of people. This is only for the new version of QuickMail. I didn't put the stats for the old one because we migrated everyone over. And so I wouldn't have any point of comparison. But here, just before Christmas, we didn't migrate a lot of people. And therefore, we had just a few fortunate agencies who could use the new version. And, they were pros. So they knew how to actually get a lot of engagement, a lot of open and so on. So I'm going to ask you to ignore things. But from December on, this is pretty accurate picture. So you get like a massive dip, end of year, massive dip, recover, January coming up, people got new resolution, they're ready, they're pumped up, which is interesting because, and that's something I realized year after year, it's actually not January that it starts, it's toward the end of January. So mid-month January is really when things starts to pick up, and beginning of February is probably one of the best time ever. I guess it's because in most companies, they're trying to figure out in January where they are, where they stand, and then they got some clarity, and then things are running on from February onwards. Now you can see here, and then from mid-February, then you can start to see a slide, which normally doesn't happen. And you can see the slide is pretty deep here. The worst week being the second week of March.
So about 2 weeks ago.
And that was when the world was getting crazy about like everything shutting down, kids not being able to go to schools, business shutting down and so on. And so people didn't know, lots of uncertainty. That's what I meant.
So let me just clarify question that I have. Are we basically looking at like across the board, second week of March, open rates fell by about half from what they normally are? Is that safe to say?
Pretty much. Yeah, that's fair to say.
Okay. So you're listening to the webinar and you're wondering, did COVID impact my opens? Yes, for sure it did.
Yes, definitely.
There's probably something that we haven't discussed yet, and that is stats from this week, maybe, or what's happened the last couple of days. Jeremy?
Last couple of days, I don't know. I didn't check.
Okay.
I only checked until Sunday last week. And you're right. Maybe I should have, because it's obviously a situation that evolves day by day and you can see it. But I'm kind of like getting the gist of what's happening here right now. Basically, 2 weeks ago, we really achieved like a low. And I think personally, by that time, it seems like we got now this last week, we're actually pretty good in terms of open rates. So you could potentially infer from this graph like, hey, things seems to be back as normal, which is interesting because I know USA is only started to be impacted. And most of my clients, honestly, and the prospect that they're contacting are mostly in the US. So it's kind of interesting to see that happening. Even, you got open rate that are even higher than, the highest in a year. That was like surprising to me when I saw that.
I have another theory on why we saw such a drop in opens. Do you guys remember a couple weeks ago just having your inboxes flooded with COVID email marketing announcements from companies? Hey, here's a promotion, or hey, here's what we're doing to stay safe, or here's what we recommend you do. I'm not saying these are bad forms of communication, but marketing departments had a field day with COVID and they sent a lot of email. In fact, I was talking with an email service provider that I use for like just traditional email marketing stuff. And he told me like, hey, do yourself a favor, don't send email this week because we are like sending at a higher volume than we've ever done before. And it's crazy. Like our deliverability team is on fire. Like maybe it's a good idea to take a beat and not send during the week that you just pointed out right there that had the huge drop. So could just be, sort of a perfect storm between everyone shuffling around, getting their work priorities together, changing office space, and then also competing with maybe 10x more messages than usual.
I strongly concur. This is a picture that I got as well. It's like people's inbox being flooded and then people just don't have time,
Yep.
Now, the interesting graph I'd like to show you as well is the reply rate. Now, again, you have to ignore before Christmas because, again, those were like from a very small number of agencies on our system before, we migrated everyone. And so from that point on, then you got the dip in around Christmas about the replies. So you get a sort of similar graph, but what's interesting is that you don't see such a strong recovery compared to the open rate. And what my conclusion is, people are basically, the last 2 weeks, people's been going through all their emails that they received, and they don't really have time to reply. So you can imagine, in my mind, this is a scenario that I imagine, like 2 weeks ago, everyone's been sent back home, they don't really know what to do. And then during those last 2 weeks, then they managed to get access to their email online and then start, resuming work slowly. And one of the first things they do is sort of like clean up their inbox. And because they're in a rush of trying to normalize their inbox, then they don't really have time to catch up on what's happening, go reply on this thing and so on. Jack and I are always saying it's a lot about timing in cold email. Like if you hit one guy at the right moment with the right thing, and right now, clearly, they must have been thinking of doing something else. What do you say, Jack?
I think timing is going to be a critical issue. I'm just trying to make the takeaway from these past two slides crystallize for our listeners here. And, one thing that I'm taking away from this is things are much better in terms of being able to reach your prospects today than they were a week ago, and even more so 2 weeks ago. So trending in the right direction.
That's right.
But looking at these reply rates, it shows me that for the most part, we're not able to capture that reply with as much consistency as we would have normally been able to this time of year. But it's still possible. And what I'm really excited about is a couple of the campaign ideas that we're going to get into next to figure out like okay, what's a campaign with a 30% reply rate look like, even like right now?
A question that I'd like to ask you, Jack, what's your thoughts on it? And maybe the audience as well. One of the things that I was wondering is that, we're humans, we look patterns everywhere, even for when patterns doesn't exist. We still see patterns. And I know that because sometimes I do some logical puzzles with some interviewee and they see some stuff. It's just like, oh, okay, there's no pattern here, but you obviously find one pattern. Anyway, point is that it seems to be back on the rise. It's still very much not there where it should be, because it's quite down compared to where we were in January and February. Also, January and February are really good months usually. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But still, it's nowhere near where we should be. We're still close. We're maybe in between, a Christmas event and a beginning of the year, which is usually I will call that, August or July, just because, people are on vacation. They're not as strong. And even if, sometime July could be a good month because people have nothing else to do than just replying to non-urgent stuff. Anyway, the question here is that going to keep on raising, or is that going to, like a stock market, it's going up, then it goes down, and then it's going back up. So it's difficult to say at this stage, but from the volume of email getting processed and the number of reply going up, it seems like people have now a sort of infrastructure or position themselves to be able to now do some work remotely. That's what it looks like from what I can say. The other possibility theory that I have is that a lot of the campaigns that were bad actually were stopped as well. So that means that the overall thing, the number of reply will go up because you will have less email that would not have gotten a reply, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think people are starting to get back to normal, whatever that looks like right now.
Normal, the new normal, yeah.
And a question just right off the bat for you, based on this data, is there anyone either listening to this webinar right now or selling elsewhere that should not be doing outreach right now, in your opinion? Is there a specific outlier that's like, yeah, in your situation, you probably don't want to be sending emails?
You mean for me, like if I was being asked?
Yeah, I'm just curious if like before we get into what's working, is there anyone who just needs to understand that this is not their time? Yeah.
To stop no matter what. So here's my thing, like I mentioned as a small disclaimer at the beginning, I'm really much on the offense. So let's say, for example, I was selling a software to, I don't know, a restaurant owner, for example. Restaurant owner are like completely smashed at the moment, right? It's like they're forced to close and no one,
It's not even just forced to close. A neighbor of mine has a restaurant. They told me that his manager had to bring like sort of a bodyguard into work when they had to lay everyone off. It's the worst business to be in, basically. And so therefore, probably the worst business to sell to. So if you can come up with a scenario for what to do with this, I think, prospect group.
Yeah. So my point is that if we keep on doing things the way we were doing things, but the context changed, I think obviously you're going to get smashed, right? It's that the context changed. It's like we all got this picture of an old salesperson doing the car sales or whatever that we know doesn't work anymore, right? So you need to adapt to your context. So if I was, selling maybe a reservation system for tables, for restaurants. I could look at things in multiple ways, but definitely what you wouldn't be able to do is like saying like, send an email to your restaurant owner and say, if you get more than, 100 tables per night, I think you should use our software.
Exactly.
Probably not what you would want to do, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't contact them. And the way that I'm thinking is like not necessarily to sell the software, but if I really want to help those restaurant owners, which I should be, because that's the market that I decided to sell to, then I should be passionate about them. I should be feeling their pain, and I should be then trying to find ways to help them. So I would basically approach it into saying like, right, what are some of the things that the government may put in place to actually help those restaurant owners? And then just give them that information. It's like saying like, hey, just learn that. And especially with our own user as well, I wouldn't just doing with cold email. I will do it with cold email, but with everyone basically, because I'm here to give help. And then I will be saying like, hey, here's the form, by the way, if you need it. This is, some tips on how to fill it very quickly so you can very quickly get some help. It could be also helping them making the transition. It's like, hey, it's horrible what's happening. We used to sell that, but we're also helping people to maybe make the move or transition to takeaway.
Yeah.
Because takeaway may still work. I don't know. Or, we have some stuff that will enable people to be on a list. So whenever you're ready to come back, then at least, you're going to have your table, filled because people will get aware of, and they'll, maybe you can send them a coupon or some stuff to help them coming back. There's always a way to provide value. I don't think it's a context. The problem is if people try to provide value when the value doesn't exist anymore.
So I'd like to transition, starting to look at like more campaign ideas, just like you had mentioned, for, no matter what business you're in. You could be selling to restaurants in Grenada, you could be selling to startups in New York, it doesn't matter. Let's look at some takeaways here before we open it up to some Q&As in, 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, show me some stats, man.
Yeah, so basically I just looked. We do have some example, not as much as I thought I would get, honestly. We do have some example of very recent campaign. And here are basically how they're performing. So you can see the open rate. Most of them, if not all, actually don't check the clicks because they're not here to actually monitor clicks.
Drive traffic, right?
Yeah, that's not the point. And then they have like a quite high response rate. One of the industry I've been surprised by the fact that they could either go super well or super bad. It's the recruitment industry. The recruitment industry, either they're having like placing temp people, that's becoming very tough for them right now. Or maybe they're placing remote people and nothing that's going super well right now. And in fact, I was talking with one executive search person yesterday, and he said his business is booming. But the reason why it's booming is because as soon as the coronavirus came in and he heard that from his client, like they say it's the next, 9/11, in terms of the economy for them. And he said, aha. And so he actually spent like an hour rechanging his entire website to position himself to executive research for remote employee. And so he pivoted very strongly, very quickly. And after 2 weeks of doing that, then now he's getting like a lot of traction because of that. There are ways, but it's not always easy, of course.
So, Mark, one of the comments that you just made there is taking a look at vertical markets that are doing well and maybe serving them. This is a great example of a slight rebranding effort so that you're tailoring your service to a market that's thriving, or at least still surviving right now. And I think it's good to keep in mind that sometimes all that takes is swapping out the headline on your site and changing out the message for your campaign on how exactly it is that you help in a slightly different segment. But us cold emailers, we're good at, picking a segment, tailoring a campaign for them and executing. So it should be second nature if you've done outbound before, just to imagine if you have some overlap with a segment that's still doing business, purchasing, not crushed by the economy. By all means, that's, cold email 101. Find people who need what you have to offer and have a budget to pay for it. Okay. So what can you tell us about, let's pick one of these campaigns. I think one of them almost has a 50% reply rate after 130 people. I mean, are these all recruitment? Is there anything that's in another vertical?
They're not all recruitment. Hold on, I need to...
And while Jeremy's letting that load up, I'll share a quick story on a branding expert. A big shout out to Dragos, who came on our podcast previously and who gave us permission to talk about how he's been using this situation to help others. And look, that's the key, is helping those that you want to serve, as opposed to trying to sell them right away. I think people who are looking to close quickly during Corona are failing. Those that are using it as a chance to build relationships with people they want to do business with are winning, or in that case, just growing their network and setting themselves up for the most possible, or fastest transition back to normal after this. But Dragos, something that he did, he sent emails and a LinkedIn post that basically offered free branding consulting for any business that was hurt during this recession. And he basically positioned himself as like, hey, I'm here to help. This is our expertise. And I think if businesses come together, we can, stand a little bit stronger and get through this together. And he's used that to get in front of a whole lot of people. Now, it's not even a discussion of how many of those converted at the moment. What's important is he grew his network and deepened his relationship with the people that could very well be great customers for him in the near future.
One of the things that the other solution as well is if your product is, providing X and you realize that you got the audience and the base, on X, maybe another need appeared because of this crisis. So an example is there is a startup in Switzerland that's been doing appointment booking for doctors. So they have already a platform of doctors. And what they realize is that most people don't go to their doctor anymore, but the need is still here. It's not because there is a COVID that suddenly everyone just stopped having some sickness or anything else. So what they went instead is they basically developed very quickly a video chat application to their software. And suddenly they were able to provide even more value to the doctor, which is interesting because you go from absolutely zero value. So you had something that has a certain number of value, then it goes to zero. And then now, after the COVID, and because they added this feature, it goes to even more value that it had before. So that's very interesting as well. That's another way.
I love the example, Jeremy. And if you're listening saying, hey, that's nice, but I'm not a technical founder, we don't have a tech product. Jeremy, what you just explained was adding more value to your current customer base. And service providers, consultants, we can still do that. And the way we do it is we pick up the phone and we call a customer and we say, hey, listen, times are tough. How are you? I'm calling to find out if there's anything else, not really to pitch, but just is there anything else on your radar right now that would be a bit more helpful during these times? I'm just curious, maybe I can send you links to places that are doing it already, or potentially just go ahead and do it for you. Just what would make your life a little bit easier right now? You make 10 phone calls like that. Clients are going to remember that. They're going to want to stick around with you for a longer period of time. I think sales is all about relationships, and that's to me an easy bucket and how to deepen those relationships. And two, it could give you a feature that you can add to your current stack of customers. And it's so important now because a lot of us had our client base trimmed down. So maybe there's an opportunity to provide more value for a fewer number of clients.
Yeah, so I'm going to go quickly over this and I'll give you some other ideas on how you can, if your business is really impacted, which seems to be the case for most of our attendees. We're going to give some actionable tips as well, or the thing that comes to your mind. Here are also a few sequence a few campaigns that I put off of the quick mail. And I'm going to go over just briefly telling you what those campaigns are. So one is the example of the restaurant owner that I was providing. This is my favorite one. And basically the idea here is that, hey, we'll be happy to help you making the transition to, take your way. Take your way. Is that something you'll be interested in? So obviously resonated very well in this current climate. Probably wouldn't have gotten such a good reply rate if it was in normal time, so pre-COVID, right? The other one is an interesting one. Oh, I didn't put it on screen, sorry, but it's also reaching 43% reply rate. It's an interesting one. It's a strategy or tactic that you guys can use. We're only tactics actually here at the moment, but one of the tactics that you can use is basically assuming in 6 months' time when the things come back to normal and then paint a picture of the future picture, right? So looking at your business in the future, what are your plans on blah, blah, blah? Or how do you see the situation unfolding or impacting you in the long term? And basically trying to engage in a conversation based on the future rather than what's happening right now. The other one I really like as well is basically recontacting your past clients and just asking them if they're okay, if everything's going well with them. Because, heroes are never created in peaceful time. They're always created in crisis. So if you want to, build your brand, now is the time, because that could actually potentially build your brands for decades to come. Maybe not because we're not maybe Fortune 500 and so on, but definitely that will definitely define how your customer sees your brand in the future, months and years. So if you come with the mindset that, hey, this is really a bad storm, a bad weather, yes, I'm really badly hit, but I still want to reach out, I still want to add value, I still want to know how you're doing and get in touch. Those things will go a long way when things come back to normal. So just bearing that in mind, that's why I love it. And see, a third of people actually reply. So there are people out there that are willing to re-engage. And the last one is about recruitment.
But hold on, Jeremy, before we change gears here, let's come back for 30 seconds. You just finished speaking about a campaign that was for, it was restaurant owners at the bottom?
Yes.
Okay, so what's reassuring to myself when I look at this stat is it picked the worst industry to sell to in my eyes. And we can see that it's still possible to get a really healthy reply rate for the worst of sections to go after.
Yeah. And it could go up. This is a minimum. This is just after 1 week.
Exactly.
So, it could even go up.
Yeah.
Right? Because people may be catching up and then maybe they'll reply, next week. So this is a minimum. And then the last one I mentioned, so it's about recruitment. This is this one. And again, this is basically saying like, this is an interesting tactic. The people that have been reached out to were first connection on LinkedIn. And it basically is a recruiter is going through his first connection in LinkedIn and saying something along the lines that, hey, I promise you I'll come back to you when I got an opportunity. Well, here's one I just opened. And it's about, remote work, obviously.
Interesting.
So that's the sort of thing that could, it's re-engagement of old leads. That's basically what it's a great time for.
Okay, so we had a couple of industries dropped in the comments here. Mark, since you had mentioned that you have some work from home options around network security and conferencing and such, I mean, have you tried running campaigns around that or not yet? And let's see here. Ben does commercial video production. Okay, cool. So Mark, I would certainly test if there's a market for those, work from home solutions. There may be businesses that are really unprepared for a remote setup right now. It could be that you can kind of help them out. The trick will be positioning it, like we've been saying, as not so much a hard sell or going for the close, but instead like checking in, hey, is everything okay? Is this something that may be useful given that, the situation?
So I like the comment of Ken, which says the open rate is much higher for candidates rather than prospects in a sense of, the clients. So where to put those candidates? Well, the interesting thing is that recruiter has very interesting challenges because they are like two-sided markets. They are like in between, and they need on one hand to get a lot of candidates and on the other hand get a lot of jobs. Now, what's interesting is you can always sort of like build your number of candidates when it is time like that, and then try to figure out what the other companies are looking for, or just build your pool so that you keep on having this relationship and this network. So when things improve, you can straight away, get a lot of people recommended to clients. So it could be that basically what I'm trying to say is like, it could be like one of those periods when one side is stronger than another. So there are ways to sort of like capitalize on that. It may be that suddenly you get access to a large pool of candidates that you may not have had access to in different situations. On the other end, it could be that your clients are looking for something different. That is what the other guy did by just repositioning himself to provide executive at, in remote positions. But it could also be maybe a chance for exploring different industries as well. So it could be like a different verticals. If you're, I don't know, I'm going to take a wrong example, but if you are providing, restaurant owners with CFO, for example, man, it's a terrible example, but basically an industry that goes very bad, try to see another industry that is, just very sideways that will certainly benefit from a huge influx of people. Because if they are developers, for example, then there is chances that some of them will actually be able to do cross. One more thing that I want to say is that I'm sad to see that no one here has their business improved, but there are businesses that are absolutely massively booming, and therefore they will be hiring. I know, for example, I can't give my sources, but basically Time Doctor, which is a tool that helps tracking what remote employees are doing, is actually currently like massively booming right now. I think they're doing like 50 million a year, and they're now on track to do 5 times more this year, just because of the coronavirus. So those people will need to hire. So you may not be able to hire to your traditional clients, but you may have, side industries or industries that are just nearby that will benefit tremendously from that. So it's a matter about doing a little bit of research, figuring out which one is actually hiring right now, and then going after them. Hope that helps.
I want to introduce maybe a new topic for a moment here about should you cut your prices right now or not. And my opinion on this is do not cut your prices. But if you want to, go ahead and create those spin-offs, smaller features or maybe smaller services that you may be able to offer at a lower price so that you can tailor some of these campaigns to businesses that are looking for more affordable options. But I would not take your core service and lower the price because people may hesitate to pay for a full price when things are back to normal. You agree, Jeremy?
Small little detour, but I think it's important. I have a mastermind group, other business owner. We meet every week. And so therefore, obviously, we had to talk about the coronavirus. And then there's one guy I really respect on our group because he's very balanced. So he's not like me, like totally on offense, or some other people like totally on defense, but he's very balanced. And that's why I really respect him. And, he was talking about this, and then suddenly, I had a bolt of lightning. But he was talking about the pricing where everyone else is trying to cut their price so they can maintain their client. He said, how can we offset? And instead of cutting the price, how can we get even more value than they're currently getting? So it'd be like a no-brainer, and the actual price that they have is not really an issue here. And I think it's a healthy way of looking at it. Rather than actually cutting the price to make it easier on them, it's more about like, what can we actually add so they receive so much value than the actual price they're paying right now is peanuts. And so he was thinking about, doing something about like helping people to go remote in his specifically niche and industry and helping them do that. And I think for his niche and industry, which is not very used to working remote, I think that was like a massive value added. Like, how can you actually not lay off people, but actually keep on working while still providing that level of services and so on? So there are ways around, but even if you're thinking of cutting price, don't do that as a knee-jerk reaction, because that may actually go a long way. That may actually last a long time. But do think about like, what can I actually add as extra value so my clients actually feel like they don't need to cancel the stuff.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, we're on the same page there. I want to get to Ben over in Springfield. Ben, you mentioned you have a commercial video production agency, and along the same theme here of maybe creating a spin-off, smaller, easier to sell service that doesn't have such a high ticket item. Instead of offering, a 5-digit kind of video production package, perhaps you could offer, let's say, like video editing as a service for maybe a marketing department who just, has tons of extra footage in their database and they know they need it for social. And maybe this is just a good opportunity to put together like a smaller package for companies that you may want to upsell later on to the full, hey, let us create your video for you.
I have a slightly different angle actually on this one. I'm thinking that if you, instead of actually lowering the price, so I'm sort of like coming back to the next topic, but I think...
Let me just be clear. I'm not saying lower the price. I'm just saying create another service that's...
Totally fine, Jack. I'm actually bouncing back on a previous topic.
Okay, cool.
Because I think both topics actually could be linked with this idea. So the first one is, as we discussed previously, instead of actually just lowering the price on the existing client, what you could do is you could say like, especially for the video production, you could say, hey, right now, honestly, a few of my clients paused their contracts. So I got extra capacity or I got, extra time. So what I'll do is only for the next 3 months to come, if you book me for 6 months ahead or for, a retainer of 6 months minimum, I do you a 40%, discount or whatever. That way you attract new clients. You don't necessarily lose the one that you are on pause. And at the same time, you're still filling your time with some valid, work. So you have to make the math, of course. Is that interesting for you? Can you actually afford 40% or whatever? But that may actually be something to look at, which is how can I actually get new people on board and then use the sort of like COVID as a sort of excuse as to why the price is lower so they can't keep on getting this price. The second thing that I'm thinking is that you could potentially also, and that may actually be a bit too late, and I think that's more the defense. That's probably why, it's not my favorite tactic here. But it will be actually locking people into yearly. So if you have a product, I'm not sure if you have a retainer for your video production, but you could say like, hey, we've been working for quite some time together. I see you're paying me, monthly retainer and so on. Why don't we move to, yearly? And then I'll do you like a bigger discount or you find other thing, like maybe I throw that and that as well in a package. So, and then in fact, that's what I had today, actually 2 days ago I have a service that turned some of our podcasts with Jack into blog posts. And I kind of like them. I just discovered them recently. I gave one article, I tried it, I like it. I say, okay, I'll do it. Second one, I like it and so on. And then they contacted me and they say, you know what, Jeremy, because of the COVID and stuff, we don't have as much work, whatever. Why don't I do you like 5 articles for the price of 4? And I was like, yeah, I'm down for it because I'm not really affected. But at the same time, You may have way to sort of fidelize your audience on a longer term where they're thinking like, you know what? Yeah, things are going to go back to normal. I think it's a great deal. Why not take advantage of it? And everyone is happy. That's kind of my thinking here.
Great points, Jeremy. Okay, sweet. So look, quickly recapping some of the things we've discussed so far. Options like, okay, great. What can we do now about this situation that we find ourselves in? I'll just sort of rattle them off. Look to other verticals that may have not been impacted as drastically. Recruiters, specific example. If candidates happen to be a hot list right now, go ahead and build up that side of your marketplace so that, when it's time to place them, you've got a whole bunch of good candidates ready to go. You could offer a different service. Maybe that's easier to get in the foot in the door. Or Jeremy, like you said, use a rare, unique opportunity promotion to get existing customers to double down and lock in longer term work projects with you. Look, worst case scenario, you can treat this as an opportunity to do your relationship building and connect with people that you hadn't previously been in touch with before. Use it as an event that puts everyone on the common ground. There had been a comment earlier that was like, hey, Jack, I don't know if I would just reach out to people and tell them that you want to connect during these difficult times. My suggestion there would be just that's a LinkedIn approach. That is literally you're building your network, bringing in fellow people with your similar background to help weather the storm, so to speak. Not selling them. It's just to build a network, and from there the relationship grows. And last, you can offer help to your tribe, especially if they've been drastically impacted. Take a sort of a lesson from Dragos, and he offered basically a free branding consulting call to help get things tightened up so that you suffer less during the downturn.
All right, guys. Thanks, everyone, for being on the show today.
Yeah, and if you have any specific questions, reach out, podcast@quickmail.io. Feel free to shoot over any COVID-related questions, outbound-related questions. We're here for you guys. And stay strong.
Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high vibe by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher, or TuneIn. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast
so they can send awesome emails
and make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.